What is going on? What is going on? It's your girl, Melba Pearson, Melba for Miami, Melba for Justice, and also known as the resident legal diva. And it is time for Mondays with Melba. I hope everybody had a great weekend, got some rest. I know there's a lot of craziness going on around the world, in Florida. We're still, praying for peace. But, things are hectic out there. So let's keep everybody centered and lifted up because you don't know what they're going through. But this is March, which is Women's History Month. So for the entire month of March, I'm super excited to be introducing you to different Black female judicial candidates here in Miami-Dade County that will be defending their seats, meaning they're in office and they're running for re-election this August. I need y'all to get to know them. We are out here celebrating the nomination of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, possibly be the first Black female justice on the Supreme Court. But the pipeline starts early and it starts at the local level. So that's why it's really important to get to know these sisters and get to know them now. First off, Judge Ayana Harris. Girl, how you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me on. How's everything?
Yes, I'm so excited now. Good. And in full disclosure to everybody, listen, she and I came up together. She was an assistant public defender while I was a prosecutor. So I have watched her and how she moves in court, how we dealt with cases together, how she tried cases. And let me tell you, when she got that appointment to get on the bench, listen, I know she was happy, but it was almost like no one was happier than me. Okay. But could you tell the folks a little bit about yourself, about your background, and why you wanted to be a judge, why you wanted to come to this next level?
Sure. So I started off in Miami-Dade County. Like you said, we grew up together. I started at the state public defender. I was a state public defender for 7 years, and then I went over to federal court, and I was a federal public defender for almost 12 years. So I practiced here in this community for 19 years. And I really love litigation. I love being in court, and I thought, what better way to use my legal talents and my experience to serve the community than by being a judge. And so I started applying, and I was applying for appointments with then Governor Scott, who obviously Governor DeSantis came after him. And after a number of applications, I know you know this, Melba, but I applied a total of 15 times. I was nominated each and every time I applied. So I had the honor of being sent up to the governor's office 15 times. And after 14 no's, Governor DeSantis appointed me on December 16th with 3 other fabulous judges. So there were 4 of us appointed on the same day. And I've been here serving on the bench ever since. So it's been a little over 2 years now.
That is so awesome. Can you describe for folks what that process of getting an appointment is? Just so people understand, because I think a lot of folks think, oh, judges, you just run and that's it. That's the only way to be a judge.
No, there actually are 2 different ways to become a judge. You're either, like you said, the election process where the judge appears on the ballot, or the appointment process. Appointment happens when there is a judicial vacancy. So sometimes that happens with a retirement. Sometimes it happens when someone is appointed to a different court. Different reasons happen where someone might not fulfill their term. Judicial terms here in Miami-Dade County are 6 years. So when someone, in my case, Judge Samuel Sloan, who I know you know, retired, and it created a vacancy, and Governor DeSantis is the one who fills judicial vacancies throughout the state. So I started applying, and there is a judicial nominating commission that you submit an initial application to. And then that judicial nominating commission, which is also appointed by the governor, they are charged with vetting those applications, looking into the background, the reputation of the judge, and deciding who will be put on what we call the short list to go up to the governor. And usually that's 3 to 6 names that go up to the governor for him to select from. So that's kind of a short version of what the nomination process is like.
Awesome. No, thank you. And the sad part is, for a lot of folks, it does take a lot of time, because I put in for judicial appointment, a couple times a few years ago, and let me tell you, that packet is like this big, and it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. You're really putting yourself out there, so definitely not an easy process. So tell us about where you are a judge now. What kind of work are you doing? What kind of cases are you hearing? I know that you cannot, and for all the viewers, judges have to be very careful. They can't disclose certain aspects about what they do. They can't talk about political parties or politics in general, because that's against the ethical rules in Florida. So I want to make very clear about that. If you're like, oh, what party are you? What's that? No judge can answer that question, because that's the quick way to no longer be a judge. Okay. We got to stay in the rules. So if you could tell us a little bit more about where you're located, which courthouse, and the kind of cases you hear.
Sure, sure. So, like I said, when I was practicing, I actually exclusively did criminal. And I had the opportunity when I was appointed to choose. And I was really grateful for that opportunity, because I chose to have a civil docket instead of criminal and really learn a different part of the law that I hadn't practiced in. And right now, I'm assigned to the Northgate Justice Center, which is about 155th and Biscayne. A lot of people have done their driver's license in that building. They always tell me, oh, I had a traffic ticket, or I had my driver's license, or something done in that building. But I'm there, and I actually do a hybrid docket. I'm one of very few judges that does a domestic violence and a civil docket. So I do domestic violence once a week. Actually, today was my day, and I came on a few minutes late because I had a hearing that ran over. But I do domestic violence on Mondays, and then every other day I'm doing county civil. So I'm thrilled to do something, like I said, a little bit different. You get to know a different part of the county by being in branch court. And you also get to know different lawyers that you wouldn't normally encounter if you practice in one area. So it's been a really wonderfully enriching experience for me to get to know a different area of the law, and also other lawyers that I might not have come across otherwise.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the civil cases? Like, what types of cases are those? Because, of course, there's a very clear difference between criminal and civil. And everybody's pretty much like, okay, does that mean you go to prison or not?
Right. So no jail time is involved. There's no one's liberty is at stake in civil cases. But I do landlord tenant cases. I do insurance cases. So personal injury protection, a lot of issues with homeowners policies and things like that. We do uncontested divorces. We do small claims matters. It's sort of a mixture of different civil cases that have an amount in controversy under $30,000. So basically $30,000 is the cap. And if it's over that, then it goes to circuit court.
And is that the type of thing where you see a lot of people representing themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So county court is nicknamed the People's Court. A lot of people call it that because really it's everyday people. There are a lot of very common disputes that happen. Someone files a small claims matter and it comes before a county court judge. So we do see a lot of self-represented litigants. We call those pro se litigants. And although a judge cannot help either side out in a litigation, and sometimes it's two pro se or self-represented litigants against one another, with our common people that are just everyday folks that come into court, we really want to take a time and pause and make sure they understand the proceedings. In particular, I try not to use words that they may not know the meaning to. I try to speak more like a regular person, just to make sure that they understand the proceedings, understand their rights, and understand how things are going to be conducted.
Awesome. And then you said you do a little bit of work around domestic violence on every Monday, right? So, it was one day of your week that's dedicated to that. What does that look like in your, in North Day? Like, what does that look like?
Sure. So my domestic violence docket is, it's domestic violence. It's any kind of interpersonal violence. So stalking, dating violence, domestic violence, repeat, all of those different types. And what happens is a petitioner files an initial injunction. And then once that initial injunction, it's heard on an emergency basis by a judge. And whether they're granted a temporary injunction or not, if they get a hearing on that, the hearing comes before a judge several weeks after. So sometimes we have hearings that there is a temporary injunction granted, or there's a denied injunction, but the judge still grants a hearing. Anytime it has to go to court afterwards, it goes before a domestic violence judge. Those are the hearings that I conduct on Mondays. And I hear whatever is on the docket and assigned to my division for the day. So I do a 1:30 and 2:30 calendar in the afternoons. Early on in the pandemic, I actually did it all day, 9:30, 10:30, 1:30, and 2:30, because we really had a backlog of cases during the height of the pandemic. I mean, we're still in it, but really when courts were closed, we never stopped. Dade County never stopped hearing cases. We always heard them. We heard them, we hear them via Zoom, and we've just always continued to go. So I had an all-day calendar when we were really backlogged, but now I do it in the afternoons.
And just to clarify for folks, Judge Harris was talking about injunctions. Some people may know that as a restraining order. It's the same thing, just different states, different counties sometimes refer to it in a different way, but that's the same thing.
Yes,
so,
and thank you for
make sure everybody knows.
That's exactly what it is.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So I want to definitely talk about what you do in the community. Like, I know you've got an amazing, family and all of that, but I know you do a lot of community service. So can you talk about some of the organizations you're involved in and some of the volunteer work you do?
Sure. Thank you for that. So I always call this my sort of fun fact, because it's something that you wouldn't know just by meeting me. And I think you may know this now, Mel, but I was a cheerleader growing up. I did competitive cheer all my life. And so I have coached cheerleading at a nonprofit organization in North Miami Beach for almost 20 years, since 2003. And so I run that program. I coach. They're my babies. Many cheerleaders have grown up in my program in North Miami Beach, and it's really an underserved area where we get to help young kids kind of just have an outlet, and we do that through football and cheerleading, and it's very, very near and dear to my heart. After a couple years of being involved and probably being one of the most vocal people at the monthly meetings, I was asked to take over the entire league. So I'm also the director of cheerleading for the Miami Extreme League, which is another nonprofit that our club is a member of. So I have 15 member parks under me, and I do all of the bylaws and things for their cheer organization to make sure that everyone is following the rules, and mostly just to make sure that our children are safe. We do background checks and things like that to make sure that that they have a safe and healthy environment to do youth sports. So I'm very, very passionate about it because it gives me an outlet as well. My job is so serious, especially having done criminal law for so long, and even being on the bench. We see a lot of very serious things in court, and it's another outlet for me besides my children and my family that really gives me an opportunity to do something that I love, but also to work with children in underserved communities and provide a place for them and a safe space for them to go. So I just absolutely love it.
Oh, yay. This is so awesome. I did not know that about you. That is so cool. I didn't know that.
And I'm a hands-on coach. I'm often asked, like, are you an administrator? Are you a coach? My cheerleaders laugh because they used to, I used to work downtown. Now I'm in North Miami Beach, which literally is 4 minutes away from our program, which is hilarious to me because for almost 20 years, I would be rushing from downtown to get to the park, and I would change my suit in the car. They would see me like Superman changing the car, and like right away counting 5, 6, 7 7/8 from across the field. So I'm a very, very hands-on coach, and they know that about me. And it's been said that I'm a little strict, but I think that structure when you're younger really helps you to just sort of reach heights that you wouldn't otherwise know you were capable of when someone's kind of tough on you and really demands more of you than you do of yourself, because that's how I was as a kid. And if I didn't have those role models that really made me rise to the occasion, I'm not sure that I'd be sitting here having this conversation with you.
So then that leads me to the next question. Who was your role models growing up? Who are those folks that helped you get to this point? Who's your village?
There are many, and we would be sitting here for way longer than our time if I named them all. But my biggest role model is my mother. My mother, and I know a lot of folks may say that, but in particular for me, she raised me as a single parent. She worked so incredibly hard, and she worked hard to change our circumstances. She took on extra work. She did what she needed to do to provide opportunities for me to be involved in cheerleading and be involved in sports and stay busy. She stressed education as a way to, just take you really anywhere that you wanted to go and to open doors for you that might otherwise be closed. So for me to see her do that and do that for a long time as a single parent, she eventually, married my bonus father. I don't like to call him my stepfather, but my bonus father when I was 9. But for a long time, I watched her do it herself. And I know it couldn't have been easy. I've had those conversations with her as an adult. She made it look easy, but she really had so much structure. And I joke that she was that mom that could silence a church pew just with that little glare. She still has that glare to this day. Folks out there, I'm scared of my mom. So if she ever walks into my courtroom, you'll see Judge Harris sit up a little bit taller because she really, she doesn't play any games.
So that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Also wanted to pivot to some of the comments because I want to shout out Betsy. She is like a regular viewer and always comes with great comments and questions. And she brought up this question: what happens to mostly women while they're waiting for their injunction? Where and when do they go for safety? Which, thank you for that, Betsy.
Yes, that is an excellent question. So it really depends on their circumstances. If they have nowhere to go, we provide resources for them to have shelter, for them to have somewhere to go. But the injunctions are decided right on the spot. So there's always a judge that's on emergency duty, and they wait at the courthouse for that injunction to be issued. If they are awarded the home or the apartment or wherever it is that they are living, then they're escorted back with law enforcement and they're immediately awarded that home or that place that they reside. So it really sort of depends on the circumstances. But if we have a petitioner that has nowhere to go, we're trained to provide them with a number of resources so they're not just out on the street while they're waiting for their injunction to be heard. But that's an excellent question. And we really try to make sure that we get some background information, and our intake clerks that do the domestic violence petitions that are filed are trained to ask certain questions to make sure that we understand a little bit more about the background of the petitioner to see if they need a referral for resources.
Awesome. And then she also had a follow-up question, I think is spurred on by the cheerleading question. Are you working with kids that are in foster care? So are some of the cheer folks, kids that are in
sure. We do have, I'm sorry to cut you off. Sorry about that. So through our program, we have kids that are in foster care. I mean, we've had kids that are in foster care. We have had kids that are in, temporary care of other family members. It just sort of depends. If we ever get a child who, for whatever reason, cannot afford to pay registration, it's something that we try to make sure that no matter what, a child is never turned away. So we have a personal policy at our club that we're going to accept the child no matter what. Usually people don't tell you their circumstances to begin with. They don't walk in the door and tell you that. But if anyone's unable to afford the cost of the program, we have sponsorships and we automatically do that. We have not turned a child away in the 20 years that I've been involved in the program. We've never done that. So we don't specifically, I guess you would say, like, seek out necessarily children that are in foster care, but the program is available to them and to anyone who wants to be a part of it, for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. So my final question is, what is your website? Because I got something to say after that.
Sure. It's www.keepjudgeayanaharris.com. And I know that's a lot to say, but I have to put Ayana Harris because I was appointed with Julie Harris Nelson, who will be on in another few weeks. And sometimes you can get confused because you're wondering which Harris to go to. So I do put my first name with it. So it's www.keepjudgeayanaharris.com.
Perfect. And I will drop that in the comments, whether you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, if you're watching the replay on Instagram, no worries. I got you. It's going to be in the comments and she will be tagged so you can go see the link to her bio. Now, judges aren't allowed to ask for money. That is against the ethical rules, but I can. So what I'm saying is, this is somebody I know. This is somebody I can vouch for. I know that she has the community in her heart. You don't get rich doing this work. Okay. That's just the reality. Like, being a public defender, like a career public defender, listen, right? Like, you here trying to figure out how you're going to pay your loans and your bills and everything simultaneously. So to do this means you love the community and you want to help the community. And in order to keep amazing folks that have the community in their heart on the bench, we have to support them, number one, with our votes, but number two, with our dollars. And any amount is fine, whether it's $10, $25. I believe the maximum is $1,000. If you can swing that, please do. As long as you are a U.S. resident, you can donate to her campaign. So, please support her. She does good work. Folks know her. She's embedded in our community. She's taking care of our babies. She's looking out for people who are going through domestic violence. So please support her and donate if you can. And so with that, Judge Ayana Harris, thank you so much for hanging out with me on Mondays with Melba.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you.
God, I miss you. I miss those days back in the days when we were like, girl, what we gonna do about this case? Are we gonna have to try this? Okay, girl. But opposite sides. But we were friends and we made it work. We fought for our sides, but always with respect and with integrity. And that's why we stay cool. So
that's the way you do it. That's the way you do it. You have a job to do and you do it, like you said, with integrity, and you represent, the interest of either your client or the state or whatever you have to do. And that's the way that I formed a lot of great relationships over the years just by being who I am and staying true to that. So I definitely appreciate the support. I definitely appreciate you having me on.
Anytime, sis. All right, y'all. So that wraps up another Mondays with Melba. Stay tuned. I got another fabulous sister coming on next Monday for you to meet and greet. Bring your questions. But remember, you got ethical rules. So if I shut down a question, it's no offense to you. I'm just making sure people keep their jobs. Okay, y'all. Take good care. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.